secondary neuron, a second neuron. And that second neuron is going to give rise to an axon, which extends up a couple segments and crosses over and continues up the spinal cord, like this. So it might do this. It's going to continue up like this, come up the internal capsule, then synapse here within the thalamus. It snaps with a thalamic or tertiary neuron, and can travel to the sensory cortex like this. So the point I want to make is two things. Number one, all sensory information synapses within the thalamus. And secondly, that most sensory pathways, unlike somatic motor pathways, most sensory pathways are 1, 2, 3 neuron pathways, with the synapse between the second and third being within the thalamus. Does that make sense? Can you appreciate information at the level of the thalamus? The answer is the sensation, the awareness at the level of the thalamus is a crude awareness, either pleasant or unpleasant, but you can't discriminate. You can't say, oh, that's a hot sensation versus a sharp sensation. You can't localize it.
They're just all out.
Okay, it's just unpleasant. It's not until it reaches the primary sensory or somatosensory cortex where you can say, oh, that unpleasant sensation is a sharp pain, and it's coming from my fingertip. Okay. So you can discriminate and localize at the level of the cortex. Remember, the cortex is the seat of conscious awareness. So here what I'm showing is that you have an ascending sensory tract coming up from the brainstem in this case. Here it's moving up into the internal capsule, and it's synapsing here in the thalamus. From the thalamus, a third neuron is going to then travel to the cortex. What about the hypothalamus, the other part of the diencephalon? What is its role? It says it serves to act as the visceral control center of the body and to oversee homeostasis. Back in the day, it seems like forever ago when we talked about homeostasis. Homeostasis, we said, is maintaining a stable internal environment regardless of what changes are occurring in our world. Now, the two systems that play the largest role in maintaining homeostasis.
I was just saying it was going to be really.
Yeah. Get on with your bad self. All right.
Okay.
The two systems are the nervous system and the endocrine system. I said it.
Now he's going to talk to the camera.
The nervous system. So, the hypothalamus oversees the autonomic nervous system. Remember, the autonomic nervous system is the part of our nervous system that is not under voluntary control. Okay? So, it controls impulses to viscera, organs, glands, cardiac muscle, smooth muscle. Okay? So, for instance, if our blood pressure starts to fall, the hypothalamus is going to trigger impulses which increase our heart rate. And it's going to cause vasoconstriction of peripheral blood vessels. Both of those activities are going to serve to bring our blood pressure back up. Okay? If we get too hot, it's going to generate impulses traveling to sweat glands that cause what? Sweat, where we can dissipate heat as sweat. So it brings our body temperature down. We said the hypothalamus is linked to the pituitary gland. We said the pituitary hangs by the infundibulum from the hypothalamus. So they're in close proximity to each other. In fact, the hypothalamus releases what are called releasing hormones to the anterior pituitary. So it triggers secretion of pituitary hormones through the release of releasing hormones. That's another major role in the hypothalamus. It serves as the center for thirst and satiety, appetite. Okay? We talked about the fact that it controls body temperature. It's also a center for emotional responses, like fear or pleasure or rage. Anybody watch Naked and Afraid, by the way?
Oh!
They tweeted me last night.
Wait, stop. Your voice has changed on that.
Look.
If you do that again, I'm going to have to deduct points.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I did not even tag them in my tweet. Not that this is a big deal. It just surprised me. I put you're gonna hate me for this. I put study action potential or watch Naked and Afraid, and they tweeted at me and said, you know what to do. I obviously study it, obviously.
Thank you. But they showed the guy, now once his partner left, he's by himself in a shelter, and he starts hearing animal noises outside.
He started screaming.
And he starts screaming, so you did watch the show.
I studied on the
those
commercials.
Emotional responses are initiated within the hypothalamus.
It was so funny. That was like I was laughing so badly at him. It was like a mole, or what was it? It was great.
So the hypothalamus is extremely important in day-to-day activities and with respect to homeostasis. Now, cerebellum is the third component. Okay? We talked about the fact that in the cerebellum, the gray matter is toward the outside, the deep matter is white. It's the arbor vitae. The cerebellum, it says, functions as a comparator. It receives proprioceptive input telling it present body position. Proprioception is the sense of knowing how, for instance, our limbs are positioned in space without having to look. For example, watch this. I'm going to close my eyes, and even with my eyes closed, I know that my right hand is lifted up toward the air. I can sense it. That's proprioceptive input. I don't have to look. Okay? And so the cerebellum uses this proprioceptive input in coordinating activities, like walking or dancing or even playing piano. Okay? So it says it receives proprioceptive input telling it present body position and sends information to the motor cortex so that the body moves according to intent, so that we can exhibit smooth, coordinated movements. Okay? So the cerebellum, therefore, is going to be important in posture and balance and coordinating complex sequence of muscular activities. So if you're, for instance, a cheerleader, and you have to jump up and then do a flip and then land correctly, that all depends upon cerebellar input, cerebellar function. Okay? Or if you're going to do a dance. Okay, I'm sure you dance quite a bit, don't you?
We've been practicing our dance.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Do you mean like
like the Macarena? Yeah.